Okay, folks, our another interview today with a lifelong. You are a lifelong Gilbert person, right?
I'm a lifelong.
He's a
Gilbert.
lifer here. He goes, and he has a loud walkie-talkie. He's a man in demand. This is Phil Worth, and I don't know how to describe his position other than if I need something done or access to something. Or am in just dire straits, I give Phil a call. So we're going to call you the chief, the head honcho. He's the head honcho here, takes care of custodial and maintenance services, working with that staff. We've been at the high school ever since I've been here. So, but this is Phil Worth. I guess, Phil, take us back to your youth. Can you shake the cobwebs out there a little bit?
Yeah.
Talk about Gilbert when you went to school here, right? What was it like when you were growing up in the Gilbert area and going to school here?
Well, I graduated in '74, so
That's 1974.
1974. Yeah, so that this year would have been our 40th class, reunion. So that puts us back, and our class size at that time was.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how many were in your class?
33, and that would have been the largest class to graduate.
You were the largest graduating class at that point.
At
33
that point.
students. Well, I went to a school my first 2 years. My high school I went to, I had 29 students in my grade back in. I was a little later than that. I graduated 10 years after you, but I can appreciate that. Because everybody knows everybody, and it's kind of annoying because everybody knows everybody, isn't it?
Exactly. So, it went from more of a farming community with most of the kids coming from the rural area to what it is today, obviously, where it's
a little more
suburban.
Yeah. Yep. We get a lot of the North Ames kids.
Exactly.
We still have, it's still a Gilbert community. So, so back then, were you involved in any activities or athletics or things like that?
Yeah, I played football and ran track. Our senior year, we won conference. It was the first conference championship at Gilbert.
Cool.
So that would have been 73, 74. And obviously, we're going into would be the 50 years of football at Gilbert. So which would have been this year. So So that's kind of exciting. We had we did that, and we had a good track team that year. We won conference by a large margin. And
it's kind of fun to be part of those teams, isn't it?
It is.
No matter what you do, you've contributed something, and it's just fun. And I imagine it's memories of your friends and the
Absolutely.
stuff you did
Absolutely.
back then.
We can reminisce about that. And I still, very, very involved with all the athletics.
Oh,
here.
yeah. I tell you what, when we go to football games, you can count on Phil no matter where it is. He will be there. For a few years, we had the pleasure of his company when the junior high coaches kept stats, and he rode in the van with us. And it was just fun hearing stories from Phil. I'm sure I told a few that probably can't get repeated here, but we just had a good time, and it's interesting to see it from Phil's perspective because of his longevity here. He knows the history and the traditions, in some cases the lack of traditions.
Exactly.
And he's seen this community grow from a class of 33 to where we have about 100 in each class right now. Now, your 40th year anniversary of your graduation coming up. How many years have you been here at Gilbert after high school?
After high school, I've been in the Gilbert school system in my 28th year. So,
wow.
So I spent a lot of time within the Gilbert.
And you've seen a lot of changes. When you were in school, where was the school at? Where was it? Over there at the old intermediate area?
It was still over at the intermediate.
Now, was that a K-12 school at the time?
It was a K-12 school at the time. So
I was just in my interview with Deb Gray. She went to a K-12 school in her youth. I went in Sway City, Iowa. I told her you come in the front door as a kindergartner, you go out the back door as a senior.
Yeah.
So. And was it the school it is now, like the East Gym over there? Was that still there?
Yeah, they put that in. So it had been put in the '60s. So
it was still a relatively new
building. Yeah, relatively new. That whole area on the east end of would be the intermediate was just built in the middle '60s. So
it was not even 10 years old. So
no.
So back then that was the equivalent of what we have here now in terms of a new school.
Right. So the growth was starting a little bit then. So
yeah. Well, and Gilbert's always been a unique community because we sit just outside Ames, yet we have access to everything that Ames has.
Yes.
But we can come home at night and we're Gilbert Tigers, and I think Phil kind of personifies that, and he bleeds Gilbert red. So and we appreciate that about him. So 27 years, mostly in the capacity in the maintenance and custodial department.
Yeah, I started out as a night custodian, worked 20 years as a night custodian.
Oh my gosh!
So most of my you know,
well, so the
around
time since I've been here, so that's the time you've been on the day shift,
right?
So, and well, I'm going to take Phil back to the not so way back machine. My first year here, I have a very kind of my I guess you call it my fond memory of Phil. You remember my first year here, the fall, Phil, what I did over there at the intermediate school with the
helmet?
No, with the water cooler.
With the
water fountain.
Dislodge it from the wall. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. So my first year back here, I'd been out of teaching for probably close to a decade, and things had changed. But I knew what Gilbert was because I'd been part of the community. My girls had gone here, and so coming back to teaching here was an easy transition. The hard part was navigating the TV cart down the hall. So, and I'm telling this story because at this point I kind of realized Phil was a pretty good guy because he showed a sense of humor about it. I think he found out that I wasn't too bad either. But navigating the TV cart down the hall at the old high school, the intermediate school now, somehow got off course and veered into the water fountain and just popped it right out the wall. I'm like, oh my goodness!
I figured out how it was connected to the wall.
Yeah. So now, tell the folks out there in Gilbert Gazette land what you did the next day. That kind of was. Do you remember what you did with the caution tape and?
Well, maybe you could. You've got.
Oh yeah, he had some fun with me. I'll tell you that, and that's why I said, well, this guy's got a sense of humor. He put up a kind of some caution tape around the area, and I think he laid some tape on the ground like lanes on a highway to help me navigate. And I got a big chuckle out of it. You know, it was within the first couple months I'd been here. It wasn't this time of year yet. And I thought, what a great thing to do, because I knew some of the kids, but I didn't really know all the staff. And I was like, oh boy, I'm an idiot. And Phil got things fixed and got the water cooler back on with the help of the Clausers plumbing. But then the next day to turn it into a little bit of a kind of a fun thing was kind of fun to see, and I don't mind that kind of stuff. And then Phil and I, of course, we have another connection. We're Vikings fans. He goes back a little farther than I do. We've shared in their misery over the years, haven't we?
Exactly.
So and I think that kind of connects with your interest activities and so forth. But speaking of the Vikings, let's take it back, and I'll put you on the spot here. Give me your top 2 or 3 Vikings players over the years that you would say.
Well, first off, I got to say Matt Blair.
Matt Blair, and there's because of the
Iowa State connection.
That's right.
And kind of a little bit of Gilbert's. He was actually a driver's ed instructor when I was a senior. I didn't have him, but he came to our school as a driver's ed instructor.
That had to be pretty cool.
That was majorly cool. I mean, to see somebody like that, and how big he was, and just how friendly he was. I mean, he was just a really super guy.
Yeah.
But he'd have to be top of my list, and boy, he got some other ones there. I would guess Fran Tarkington.
Fran Tarkington has to be up there.
He's got to be there.
You and I have had conversations about them. Today's modern quarterback is the scrambling, running type, and Fran Tarkington originated the species.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And he did things in the 60s and 70s that today are commonplace. And back then it was just different. It was fun to watch him.
He was unique for his time, and he really put the Vikings in a position to be pretty successful for a number of years. Yes, he did
for quite a few years. Anybody else come to mind with the Vikings?
Well, there's so many. You go on the defensive side, Paul Krause.
Paul Krause, yep.
Those are guys who are going way back.
Way back. And for those of you who don't know, I do remember those guys because I became a Vikings fan in the 70s, and those names are familiar. Alan Page comes to mind for me.
Jim Marshall, yeah.
Oh gosh, what a bunch!
Purple People Eaters, there's some.
Despite the lack of Super Bowl rings and significant victories over the years, they've had some pretty good teams. So, and that's Phil and I chat about that. We come in and on Monday mornings we'll talk about Iowa State Cyclones and Gilbert Tigers, and in any capacity. And so we've had that connection over the years. But what do you see? We'll put you on the spot here again. Other than obviously we have new buildings, has there been some a biggest transition or change from say when you started working here till now? How has Gilbert changed, and whether it's good or bad, or just how is it different now than it was 25 years ago or 20 years ago?
It just, with the growth of a lot of kids, a lot of times you see the problems with, maybe how kids treat a building, but I have seen, especially since we've been in this building, I think the respect they have for the new facilities has been really outstanding. You can walk down these halls and just see, like, they take pride, take ownership in what they have here.
And that's good, because your job and the jobs of some of these people that help make this place go can be thankless sometimes. Yeah. I appreciate what you do, and I know everybody else does, and I think the staff does respect the building too. But I think that's one key thing. And do you think if you go back to your time here all the way through, that respect factor is something that's consistent with Gilbert?
I think so, yeah. I think it's the culture we have here, it's the pride that people have in this community, it's the families, it's just the whole community aspect here. And when people appreciate what they have, they take care of it.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. We have a community here. Yeah. It's when you go to events here, there are people in the stands or in the bleachers or at the play that may not have kids involved.
Absolutely.
A lot of them don't.
Absolutely.
Yet they come and support, and I think they come and support and appreciate the people that, like I say, you're one of those people that help makes things go around here. So I guess we'll end this with any predictions on the Iowa State Cyclones men's basketball team. Are we gonna place somebody in the Final Four for once?
Fred's, he's another person that is part of this community, and he's done such a great job. And if you don't reach for the stars, you'll never get there.
Exactly.
And I really believe this team, as it grows throughout the season, we're going to see a real special team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're in that Elite Eight or Final Four.
Yeah, and then we have to make sure that we pay the referees first, right?
That's right.
Well, I tell you what, it's been I've enjoyed my time here. I've enjoyed getting to know Phil. He's one of those people that is Gilbert through and through, and I think you'll see that theme throughout these interviews I've got for this December issue, is that there's Gilbert roots here, and they run deep, and he supports. It's not just a job for Phil. You can tell that he enjoys being around the Gilbert people. He knows a lot about the kids. For a person who doesn't have much maybe personal contact with them, he takes his time to get to know them. And he takes pride in his job, and it shows in how this building looks. So Phil, by the way, one other thing about Phil, his wife's a great cook. I got the opportunity, to go, we re-roofed his house this summer, and ran into some interesting things there, but we got her done, and so far he hasn't called me up and said it's leaking, so we're doing good. But his wife was gracious enough to feed myself and the crew when we were there, and it was very good. So he lives, you live still in Story County, just on the edge,
we still live
about 7 miles
we're about as far as you can go north in the Gilbert School District.
Yeah, and still be in
it.
So here we go. We'll end this. Phil Worth, lifelong resident and Gilbert person through and through. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.